Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the regular scheduled meeting of the City of Griffin Board of Commissioners, March 27, 2018. We're going to start off with Mr. Gabe Smith, Life Scout at Troop 2 First Baptist Church of Griffin, leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed with me with the invocation. So, Mr. Smith, if you please come forward. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in prayer. Father, we are here today to ask for your blessings and guidance in the performance of our duties as elected officials. We pray for strength, love, knowledge, and understanding. Help us to recognize and solve the problems that are presented. Make our solutions fair and just to the best interest of everyone. Help us to overcome our shortcomings and keep us united as a team to work for the betterment of the city and its people. We pray in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you, Gabe, and thank you all for being here tonight. It's exciting to see such a great crowd. First item of business is presentation, a proclamation declaring March 27, 2018 to be Spalding High School Lady Jags Day in honor of their recent win at the state basketball class 4A champions. Mr. Rodney Go Jags McCord is going to.
I think they're on the way, Mr. Chairman.
We're on the way, so we're going to skip that one right now.
Also, if you want to approve the agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, sir. We're going to approve the agenda. Do you have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion the agenda be approved.
Mr. Truman Tinsley made a motion, second Ms. Murray. Any questions or comments or changes? All in favor, signal by raising your hand. 6-0.
On item number one.
Postpone it?
Yeah, postpone it. They are actually at the College and Career Academy. They are on program over there tonight. So it was a conflict on their part where they couldn't get here tonight. Not that they weren't told.
We will get them in a few.
So you want us to do that?
We'll do it at the next meeting. Next meeting will be fine.
Okay, that's fine. Item 2, presentation of proclamation declaring April 9, 2018 as Pulaski Chapter NSDAR Day in honor of their service to Griffin and Spalding County. Commissioner Holly Murray will make the presentation. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to come forward. Or ladies.
She said there's no gentleman in this.
Perfect.
Okay.
No gentlemen. Oh, that's how it is.
You go, girl.
Thank you.
He said get a little closer to the microphone.
Ready? Okay. Proclamation honoring the Pulaski chapter of the NSDAR, whereas founded in 1890, the Daughters of the American Revolution is a lineage-based nonprofit national society with a deeply rich history and more than 930,000 women who choose to honor their heritage and make a difference in the communities across the country and the world. And whereas the Pulaski chapter, NSDAR, was created in 1893 by Elizabeth Andrew Hill Bailey, Mrs. Fleming G., and Mary Ansley Cope Mills, Mrs. Thomas Roderick. And whereas the Pulaski chapter was affiliated with the National Society Daughters of the American Revolution for the last 126 years, supporting its goals, projects, activities, and whereas the passion for history and family stirred and channeled through DAR has assisted our community in preservation, celebration, and recognition of history, patriotism, and veterans. And now, therefore, be it resolved that Board of Commissioners of the City of Griffin does hereby express gratitude to the members of the Pulaski Chapter NSDAR for their continued support and promotion of our country and country's history, and we encourage the Pulaski Chapter NSDAR to continue to fan the flames of patriotism and history for our community. And now, therefore, be it further resolved that we commend the Pulaski Chapter for its faithful and continued partnership with Griffin and Spalding County, and celebrate the honor the 126 years of service to Griffin and Spalding County. And in witness of, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Griffin to be affixed on this 27th day of March in the year of our Lord 2018, and we, the Board of Commissioners of the city of Griffin, do hereby proclaim that April 19, 2018 shall be declared Pulaski Chapter NSDAR Day. Thank you.
Holly, you want to present that to them?
Get in, get in.
You get in the picture, Holly. See, a guy can't be in the picture, supposedly. That's what they said. No guys. Way to go, ladies. Thank you, ladies. Would someone like to make a comment or two? If you'd like to make a comment, feel free to do so. The mic.
It's a privilege to be a part of the DAR chapter, and we welcome new members all the time. So let us know, and we don't have to trace that ancestry back to the Revolutionary War. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Next item is to present a proclamation declaring April 22, 2018 to be Earth Day 2018. Trim and Tinsley will present the proclamation. And who is our special guest to receive this? Environmental Council folks, welcome.
I think I did, for something else.
All right, congratulations, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Arbor Day.
Arbor Day, that's right. Arbor Day.
That's right, no, it's Earth
Okay, all right, bear with me, this is kind of long, so. Okay, this is the City of Griffin proclamation declaring Earth Day 2018. Humankind is currently facing tremendous global challenges, including armed conflict, large-scale migration, extreme inequality and poverty, degradation of ecosystems, mass extinction of species, and global climate change. And whereas all the people on this earth, no matter their race, gender, income, sexual orientation, or national origin, have a right to a healthy environment. And whereas the youth of our world are a most valuable resource and represent a source of endless creativity and potential. It is necessary for the citizens of our global economy to build an innovative, equitable, green economy to combat the aforementioned global challenges. Expanding environmental education, climate literacy is vital to enhance awareness about the environment, inform decision-making, and protect future generations. It is understood that substantiability will only be achieved by meeting the needs of the present without compromising the needs of future generations. It is more important than ever to cooperate internationally, defend the environmental progress that has been heretofore gained, and it is essential to expand the diversity global environment movement to achieve maximum process. Whereas Earth Day is an annual reminder of the daily need for environmental activation, stewardship commitments, and consistent efforts, now therefore it be resolved that the Board of Commissioners of the City of Griffin do hereby proclaim April 22nd, 2018 to be Earth Day 2018. And the City of Griffin urges all citizens, businesses, and institutions to celebrate Earth and promote environmental and climate literacy. In addition, the City of Griffin encourages all local businesses to promote the use of paper and or recyclable bags during the week of April 22nd through the 28th to help raise awareness of Earth Day and the need for creating and sustaining a healthy environment. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Griffin to be affixed to this document on the 27th of March in the year of our Lord 2018. Doug Holberg, Chairman, and Kenny Smith, City Manager. Have they got
birthday happened to be my
Camera sounds as good as yours.
It is?
Yeah.
You gonna pick up trash?
My wife did.
Would either of you like to make a comment or two?
Somebody say something.
Mr. Jones?
I would just like, I'm Tim Jones, Environmental Counsel, and this is Bonnie Moray, also of the Environmental Council. I'd just like to thank each and every member of the board for doing this for us. I, for one, will be knocking on doors and asking local businesses, stores and businesses, to help us celebrate this particular day. Thank you again so very, very much.
Thank you for your service. Item 4 is present a proclamation declaring April 2018 to be Confederate History Month. Commissioner David Brock will present.
Mr. Holberg, is there any way we can vote on this matter?
No, sir.
I'd like to make a comment, if I could, before we present it, if it's okay with the board.
I'd rather wait for citizen comment.
I'd like to make a comment about this proclamation, if we could, since it's about the proclamation.
What's the pleasure of the board?
You're the chairman. What's your pleasure?
I think there's a time and a place, and I don't think this is the time.
It's the proclamation. Why wouldn't we talk about it?
Okay. Mr. McCord, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Now, a lot of times being an elected official and being in city government, being an American, being a Christian, sometimes causes you to be uncomfortable. Now, for me, stuff like this is not uncomfortable. I signed up for this. I don't have a problem addressing it. Now, last year, we had a vote of the city commission not to do something that is going to offend parts of our community to make other people feel good. The majority of the citizens that live in the city of Griffin would probably be offended by this proclamation and to celebrate the Confederacy. Now, some years back, Linda Brown is a young lady who lost her life on Sunday. And she is famous for Brown versus Board of Education. This is a little black girl who was trying to go to school. This was in Topeka, Kansas. I had it wrong earlier. It's in Topeka, Kansas, Brown versus the Board of Education. And this little girl, her family only wanted her to get the same education as her counterparts. When we look back on history, if you Google her name and you Google Brown versus Board of Education, you will see pictures of people who were standing at those doors of those schools, of that school, with signs that had the N word and other words about not letting that little girl go to school with their children. You had people who pulled their children from that school because they did not want equality for all. So when you look at those pictures, when you see those pictures, if that's an ancestor of yours, if that's an uncle or an aunt or a grandparent, I don't know that I would be proud if a member of my family was holding up a sign that says, we don't want this little girl to go to school with our kids. When we celebrate and we do stuff to say that we are willing to offend, when it comes to black people or African Americans, there's people here on this board who doesn't have a problem when it comes to offending black people. Now, we would never, ever in these United States do anything that is going to promote Nazi Germany. We would not have a proclamation for those people waving the swastika. We wouldn't dare do that. We wouldn't do anything that is going to offend that group of people. But when we have a chance here tonight, as we did last year, we chose not to honor those people who enslaved, those people who served injustices upon other people. If we are going to do that, if we're going to set that precedent, if that's what we want to say here in the city of Griffin, that we are going to continue and we're going to celebrate those people. We're not going to side on the side of that little girl that was going to school, trying to go to elementary school. We're not going to side on the side of Charlene Hunter Galt and Hamilton Holmes, who integrated the University of Georgia. So it wouldn't be no Herschel Walker or Nick Chubb or any of those other African American or black athletes. We're not going to side on the side of the Loving family, a white man and his black woman in Virginia who wanted to get married. There were people who ran them out of the state of Virginia so that they couldn't. And those people are the side that sided with the side of injustice and hatred. So when history is written, and you see those signs, and you see those people, and you see all of that kind of stuff, which side do you want to be on? When the history of Griffin is written, and when these minutes are written, when they show these minutes, and they say, where did you stand on that issue? When your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren, they look at what is going on in the city of Griffin, kind of like in Charlottesville, which side are you going to be on? When that little white kid shot those 9 people who were serving the Lord in South Carolina, shot them in the back of the head, waving the Confederate flag under the Confederacy, which side of history would you like to be on? Which side would you like to say you sided with when your great-grandkids and grandkids or your kids look at that? It's just, to me, in 2018, we as a community, city of Griffin, the state of Georgia, we are much better than this. There's no need for us to continue. As someone said this morning, we should do it because we have always done it. Baseball is going to start in a few days. And had it not been for Branch Rickey, who wanted to continue, did not want to continue the way things had always started, there would never be a Hank Aaron. There would never be a Jackie Robinson, because people had always done it that way. They did not allow black people to participate with white people in America's pastime. But because it was always done that way, had not Branch Rickey had the backbone, the ability, the intestinal fortitude to stand up and say, this is wrong. We are going to put the best out there. But tonight we set it back. We go back, and I'm trying to figure, as I've asked, what happened between 2017 and 2018 to make some people change their mind about how they felt about the Confederacy. So with that, if we're going to do a proclamation, I would hope that the minutes show that I, Rodney McCord, a citizen of Griffin, of these United States, am not here to proclaim, celebrate the history, anything that's going to say that this group of Americans who were the original domestic terrorists, because if they did not want to be a part of these United States, they chose to create their own states, the Confederate States, in opposition to the United States. As we look at people, and this is the last thing I'm going to say, you know, I heard one member of this board say he will not be a fan of the NFL because these black men kneel, and some white men kneel at the national anthem and our nation's flag, because they are disrespecting the flag, even after they said they weren't disrespecting the flag. These people kneeled at the flag. That's what they did. The Confederate States of America went to war over the flag. They killed people over the flag. They killed more Americans, died in the Civil War than any other war over the flag. So if you don't like those people in the NFL who are out there expressing their opinion, I know that there's no possible way that you could support or celebrate the Confederacy, who did the exact same thing, but to a greater degree. And instead of saying that we are not going to watch the NFL on Sunday, we are tonight, saying that we are going to present a proclamation to these very anti-Americans who did not want to be a part of America, and now we're going to celebrate it. That is the most un-American thing that I've ever heard of. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCord. Mr. Brock? If our guests are here to receive the proclamation, please come forward.
Y'all stand here with me. I've got the proclamation and we'll go ahead and read it right now. Proclamation Confederate History Month 2018. April is the month in which the Confederate States of America began and ended a 4-year struggle for states' rights, individual freedom, local government control, which they believed to be right and just. And whereas Confederate Memorial Day on April the 26th is a time where Georgians commemorate the more than 90,000 brave men and women who served and sacrificed for the Confederate States of America. And whereas Georgia joined the Confederacy after the convention ratified an ordinance of succession in January 1861, and Georgia has been long cherished her Confederate history and people who made sacrifices on her behalf. Whereas among those served in the Confederacy were many black Americans who saw action in the Confederate Armed Forces, as well as in governmental service, and one such individual who made significant contribution to the state's history was Moses Dallas of Savannah. And whereas Moses Dallas joined the Confederate States Navy September the 9th, 1861, as a pilot making $60 a month. In May 1863, his pay was increased to $100 a month. And when this pay increased, he was able to buy a home in Savannah and purchase his family's freedom. On January the 3rd, 1864, Moses Dallas and other members of the Confederate Navy Savannah Squadron participated in a midnight raid to capture the USS Water Witch in Wassaw Sound. It was in that raid that Moses Dallas, along with 4 other sailors, gave the ultimate sacrifice and successful capture of the USS Water Witch. In an official report, Moses Dallas was especially mentioned for his distinguished and useful service, and his hearse was hired to carry his remains from the naval headquarters in Laurel Grove Cemetery to this burial site on June the 4th, 1864. And whereas pursuit of OCGA 1-4-20, 2015, this month of April of each year is hereby designated Confederate History and Heritage Month and shall be set aside to honor, observe, and celebrate Confederate States of America, its history, those who served in the armed forces and government, and those millions of citizens whose various races and ethnic groups and religions were contributed in sundry and myriad ways to the cause which they held so dear from the founding February the 4th, 1861. And this happened in Montgomery, Alabama, until the Confederate ship CSS Shenandoah sailed into Liverpool Harbor and surrendered to British authorities in November the 6th, 1865. It is important to Georgians to reflect upon the state's past with honor and respect for the devotion of her Confederate leaders, soldiers, sailors, Marines, and citizens. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners of the City of Griffin, along with the Governor of the State of Georgia, Nathan Deal, does hereby proclaim April the 18th to be Confederate History Month and April the 26th, 2018, Confederate Memorial Day in the City of Griffin and the State of Georgia Heritage and History, and to observe the occasion with appropriate ceremonies, who hereby declare the copy of the proclamation be spread upon the minutes of the proceedings of this board, reflecting that I have hereunto caused the seal of the City of Griffin to be affixed to this 27th day of March in this year of the Lord, 2018, signed by Chairman Doug Holberg and City Manager Kenny Smith.
Gentlemen, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Nobody ratifies hate and anger towards folks. It's a reflection on the history of America. There's history. It goes back. Just this past week, I was teaching my Sunday school lesson and talked about how the Israelites were slaves of the Egyptians for almost 400 years, and the Babylonians. And so slavery is not something we can be proud of as a country, but as a piece of our history. And
I would like to just mention one thing.
Yes, sir.
I'm 78 years old. My grandfather was a private in the Confederate Army. At 15, his first battle was Resaca, and at 15 years old, he fought as a soldier, and those are the people that our organization honors.
Yes, sir.
Thank
you
you.
very much. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, sir. Let's see if we can't take a quick photo.
Thank you, Mr. Brock. Next item is a presentation of proclamation declaring April 18, 2018 as Griffin Lineman Appreciation Day and the month of April 2018 to be Georgia Lineman Appreciation Day. Commissioner Cynthia Reed Ward will make the presentation. So do we have our linemen here tonight?
Hey, Dave, come on. You can give them the
Yep, you can give the proclamation. Good evening, gentlemen. Do you have any linewomen yet?
several in the industry.
I know, but have you got any linewomen yet? Thank you. Good to see you today, folks.
Is that everybody? Okay. Griffin Lineman Appreciation Day. Whereas the City of Griffin and Griffin Power recognize the efforts of linemen in keeping the power on regardless of conditions and protecting public safety. And whereas a lineman is a tradesman who works hard to construct and maintain energy infrastructure, and the profession of lineman is steeped in personal, family, and professional tradition for these true public servants. And whereas linemen are often first responders during storms and other catastrophic events, working to make the scene safe for other public safety heroes. They work every day in potentially dangerous, hazardous conditions, often in extreme weather, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, to keep the power flowing for the rest of us. And whereas linemen work in dangerous situations with thousands of volts of electricity, high atop power lines, away from their own families, to construct and maintain the energy infrastructure of this city, this state, and often as backup to out-of-state locations in need. And whereas linemen put their lives on the line, literally, every day, with little fanfare or recognition from the community regarding the inherent danger of their work. So since April 18, 2012, chosen in memory of Cliff Bosch, who was a celebrated lineman who passed away on April 18, 1992. Georgia Lineman Appreciation Day has been commemorated as a day to honor all those who so unselfishly serve on a daily basis. And whereas multiple organizations throughout the state, including Georgia EMCs, Electric Cities of Georgia, MEAG, and Georgia Power, are coming together to ensure that linemen of Georgia are recognized for their effective and dedicated service to the citizens of the state. And whereas recognizing that the state of Georgia has designated April 18, 2018 as Georgia Lineman Appreciation Day and the month of April 2018 as National and State Lineman Appreciation Month, it is fitting and proper that the linemen of Griffin Power be recognized for their effective, steadfast, and dedicated service to all the citizens of Griffin, the city of Griffin, Georgia. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Griffin Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim April 18, 2018 as Griffin Lineman Appreciation Day and April 2018 as Griffin Lineman Appreciation Month in the city of Griffin, Georgia, and urges all citizens to pause and reflect on their contributions and to thank any lineman you see, whether you see them working near your home, at a local restaurant, church or school event, for their commitment and dedication to keeping the power on for everyone. We do hereby declare that a copy of this proclamation be spread upon the minutes of this board, reflecting that I have hereunto caused the seal of the city of Griffin to be affixed on this day, to be affixed on this, the 27th day of March, in the year of our Lord, 2018. Douglas S. Holberg, Chairman. Kenny L. Smith, City Manager.
You won't get on my shoulders. Get over here. Stand up.
Gentlemen, we appreciate your service and what you do for our community. And many of us take for granted that when you wake up in the morning, you turn on the light switch or the automatic light comes on when you pull in your driveway.
magic.
It's magic.
It's magic. It happens all the time.
It's big business, and we appreciate your commitment.
Thank you very
dedication.
much. I couldn't be more proud than this group that I work with in here, and I can just tell you from my heart that they are dedicated not only to what they do, but to this community, and they go home safe every night because of what they do and because of your support. So thank you very much.
Thank you. So don't leave. You're up again. So the next item is to recognize
Again, change
Tony
gears.
Simmons, Inventory Manager with the City of Griffin Electric
Tony Simmons.
Department, as the December 2017 Strongest Link Award recipient. Electric Director Dan Thompson will address. Is December correct, or is it actually supposed to be?
We shipped Tony off for some off-site training last month, so
Okay.
she wasn't going to be here, and we apologize
Okay, so we'll get
for
that.
moving this out to this date, but thank you very much for doing it. Tony was Tony was pretty much the nucleus involved in our AMI transition into our new metering program. She has since mastered that and gone on to bigger and better things, and I'm very thankful that she's still in our group. She works for Mr. Lee Goodman now on our line construction side, and I'd like to ask Lee to read his write-up and our write-up.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Tony Simmons has been instrumental to both technical services and line construction. Since the warehouse manager position was vacated last year, she has worked two vastly different jobs simultaneously and has never skipped a beat. All of her normal duties as AMI system administrator have been filled as she stepped into learn various aspects of the inventory control, work orders management, and other vital daily functions. Of the warehouse manager position, she has approached these challenges with typical positive attitude, good humor, and never-ending eagerness to learn. Everything she can about how the electric department operates, she is already streamlining certain processes and computerizing others so that our projects, materials, and budgets can be better tracked. I feel as though she will be a part of our future advances for a long time to come, and that her qualities are the definition of the strongest link in the chain. I'm proud to have her. She's bubbly personality. She don't meet a stranger. She's done a great job learning a lot, teaching me a lot. So we're very proud to have her.
And you've got your hardware to wear for the next 30 days.
Is that paparazzi jewelry?
Paparazzi. Tony, congratulations. We appreciate your dedication and hard work for the city of Griffin, and keep doing what you're doing. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Tony.
A picture, Dan.
Good job.
No bluebird houses.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Lee. Appreciate y'all's hard work and commitment. Okay, moving into citizens' comment. At this time, the chairperson opens the floor to comments from the audience. Comments should relate to a specific agenda item not listed on the agenda for a public hearing or to a concern within jurisdiction of the city commission meetings. The city commission meetings serve to the purpose of conducting city business and are not a forum for the unlimited expression of opinion. The chairperson reserves the right to limit comments to matters germane to city business and may refer speakers to the city manager or staff resolution. With that being said, would anybody on my left side like to come before the commission? If you could please give your name, address for the minutes, please, sir. And ma'am.
Robert Taylor. My address is 17 Mint Street, Griffin, Georgia. I'm here on behalf of Urban Outreach Association in Griffin. The reason why I'm here is because I had heard rumor about the proclamation for Confederates. I was told it was Confederates Day. I didn't realize it was Confederates Month. And there were a lot of dates on that proclamation. And Mr. McCord also gave a bunch of dates. So if you will bear with me, I'm going to give you some dates.
If you can please do it within 3 minutes, sir.
1526 to 1867. 12.5 million slaves were brought to the United States. February 1861, the Confederate States of America was a republic composed of 11 southern states that succeeded the Union in order to preserve slavery, rights, and political liberty for whites. They also have a mock Civil War thing every year to try to figure out who actually won, and I can tell them, yes, sir, the result of that one. Here we are now in 2018, and someone I heard during the talk said that they wanted to go ahead and do this proclamation. The talk was around you, Mr. Holberg.
Yes, sir.
That you was the one pushing this proclamation. Now, being from New York, I understand that the last name, Holberg, and correct me if I'm wrong, is Jewish, is it not?
Yes, sir.
Well, most folks that I know that are in New York with the last name Holberg is a Jewish name.
Okay.
So my question to you is, if it was a Jewish name, how would you like if we propose Nazi Day? Would that be offensive to you? Just like Confederate Day is offensive to a lot of blacks here, or a lot of blacks inside the city of Griffin. Here we are in 2018, and you have people in this country that are moving to deface outwardly and denounce the dirty, nasty bastardization of America by removing these images in different states. They're removing them. I mean, even Atlanta, they're talking about removing the Confederacy off of Stone Mountain because it offends people. But here we are in 2018, and this city that I came to, that I own property here and worked for the City of Griffin Police Department for all the years that I did, and I seen progression and us moving forward. Somebody has the nerve to take us backwards. Somebody has the nerve. Here we have a police chief, and I was here the last time, and I commended him for what he's doing because he's moving the police department in a progressive movement, not in a backward movement. He's moving the police department in an area where now the police department reflects the community, and I commend him for that. But with Confederate Day, it seems to me that someone is trying to take us backwards instead of forward. And the last thing I want to say is this, is that how about we do this, and I'm pretty sure it won't never happen, that I come and I ask you people to do a proclamation for Nat Turner Day. Reason why I know that won't happen, because Nat Turner killed a lot of white people, and that would be offensive to you.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Name and address for the minutes, please.
I'm sorry.
Name and address for the minutes, please.
Kimberly Matthews with 1T. 233 Timberwolf Trail. My concern with the proclamation is, when does the hate end? We are raising children. We just saw this the march in Washington. All of these young children that are standing up for what they believe as far as gun violence. They are coming together. They are moving past all of the hate. Hate is taught in homes. What is this going to look like? Are people going to be celebrating Confederate Month in the streets of Griffin with a parade and Confederate flags coming down the street? How is that going to make people feel? And what happens if it incites violence? Then what are you going to do? What if violence comes into our school because kids are walking around feeling emboldened because now they have this particular month to celebrate what they have been taught in a form of hatred? Do we want school shootings here in Griffin, Spalding County?
No, ma'am.
No, we don't. So why are we presenting something that can cause a division among people in this county? Why?
Thank you for your comments.
And one more thing before I go.
Yes, sir.
And that's this. Because it's been proposed, we are working very hard to register people to vote in this city and in the county. We won't forget.
Thank you. Is there anybody on my left that would like to come before the commission? Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Charles Kelly Barrow. I live at 621 Forest Avenue here in Griffin. I want to thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. I didn't know I was going to do this tonight. I am a Christian who attends a local church here in Griffin. I'm also a school teacher of 22 years of teaching, also military. And just the misinformation of facts that I've heard from the council and also from the speakers up here, I believe there's a dialogue that needs to happen, that something's missing here, because this proclamation that y'all did, and I appreciate it, that the state of Georgia does since 1874, and it's been in the state law since 2009, has nothing to do with hate, has to do with heritage, has to do with all different groups of the Confederacy, Jews, Catholics, blacks, whites, Indians, Irish, you name it. I myself have written 2 books on black Confederate soldiers, working on a 3rd one. I can give you tons of history, and I'll be glad to sit down with anybody on this council, anybody out here in this room as a dialogue, and sit down and try to explain that this is all about heritage, it has nothing to do with hate.
Mr. Barrow.
And that's why we're here. Yes, sir.
If you don't mind, I'd like to start that dialogue right now. Are you trying to convince maybe everyone else?
Mr. McCord, please.
Are you suggesting that a man was enslaved and he registered to go to war? He signed up. He enlisted. He said, "I want to." You wrote a book about a man that was being held in bondage. His wife, his daughter, his mother, probably even his sister, being raped and used by the people that were holding him. But he signed up and said he wants to remain in that state. Now, the President of the United States declared his freedom, but instead of taking freedom, you're suggesting to me and all of these witnesses that there were people who would rather be a slave than to be free. Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, first you have to understand it's not about slavery.
No.
And,
no,
Mr. Chairman,
he couldn't have been free at that time. So
Moses Dallas.
Are you suggesting that Moses Dallas, whoever that gentleman is, this mystical figure, that he was a slave and this part of the South was a slave, but he fought not for his freedom, he decided to fight to remain a slave. That's what you want to tell me. He went to war with people who wanted to free him so that he could be a slave. Is that the dialogue you want to have? You want to convince me and any other African American or either white person, you want to convince us that you're holding me as a slave and I'm working for you for little or nothing. and I am going to fight. I'm going to get a gun, and I'm going to shoot people who are there to save me. I'm going to defend my master against these people who are trying to set me free, which is one of the life's greatest, is to be free. You're saying I would rather, or this man, Moses, what'd you say his name was?
Moses Dallas.
Moses Dallas would rather be a slave, and he will shoot down anybody that comes to free him because he wants to stay as a slave. He wants to stay on the planet. He would never want to see a Rodney McCord, a Cynthia Ward, a Toussaint Kirk. He would never want to see a Barack Obama. He doesn't think because he's an African or of African descent that he should have the opportunity as his master. So he would rather be a soldier to kill other people that's trying to free him.
Mr. McCord.
I don't think you're the chairperson. I don't think you.
Mr. McCord.
I don't think
Mr.
you.
McCord.
I don't think you can tell me,
Mr. McCord,
what I can do at this seat right here. I'm an elected official. You are an appointed official.
Mr. McCord.
Let's get that straight.
Mr. McCord, with respect, please. Please. Mr. McCord, we're good? Okay.
I'm fine.
Thank you, sir.
I think I made my
All right.
point.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else on my left like to come before the board? Please state your name and address for the record, please, ma'am.
Kimberly Matthews.
Yes, Ms.
233
Matthews.
Timberwolf
Yes, ma'am.
Trail. I'm a Christian too.
Yes, ma'am.
And I believe in God, and I know that the greatest command is love.
Yes, ma'am.
And love knows no color, it knows no boundaries. Yet, this right here, this proclamation, this right that you're giving to people who have hate in their hearts, because there are people like that. And I'm not saying all people, but even the family sitting behind us, we open our mouths to say something, and it's why?
Yes, ma'am.
It's disrespectful. Everybody should be able to have a voice. And if it makes you uncomfortable, then don't bring it up. And the gentleman said we should have a dialogue. Then the dialogue should have been had prior to the proclamation.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your comments. Is there anybody else on my left side that'd like to come before the board? Is there anybody on my right side? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Good evening.
David Castile, 705 Woodland Drive. And I'm not up here to talk about the past or anything that's happened in the past or any celebration or any opposition to a celebration in the past. What I want to talk about is the present. I'd like to see more handicapped parking places surrounding this city hall. I am tired of having to walk half a block to get in here.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Castile. Is there anybody else on my right? Yes, ma'am. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
My name is Shannon Herron, 413 Terrace Street here in Griffin. I did not intend to speak tonight, but feeling personally attacked by the board has provoked me to come up here. I'm a third-generation immigrant from Poland. My family on that branch came here to get away from World War I. There, I have ancestors who were among the 12 million Jews and Gypsies who were slaughtered during that time. I have Indian heritage who was driven off their land, intentionally made sick by the U.S. government. You know all the stories about the Indians. I have German ancestry. I have English ancestry. I'm a mutt. That's what we call. In school, I endured derogatory names about my Polish heritage. In fact, had a teacher tell me, don't let other kids call you that word because it's the same word, and back then it wasn't not okay to say the N-word, and that's what he wrote on my paper. He said, don't let them call you that word because it's the same as this other word. So I know whereof I speak. My ancestors were not standing in front of the school when Miss Linda Brown wanted to go to school. My ancestors were not on the side of Nazi Germany. Ignoring history does not make history go away. The way that you learn it, the way that you overcome it, is to learn more about it. I have friends across the spectrum. There are men and women in this room who I consider dear, who I don't want to offend. But I also don't think that it's right for an elected official to sit up there and make grandstand comments, painting everyone with the same brushstroke, as the young lady here said. Not everybody believes the same thing. This young lady registered her displeasure in a peaceful way without being offensive. She's entitled to her opinion. During the month of April, you do not have to celebrate. A proclamation is not a declaration of law. You can get on your Facebook every single day and drive the issue of slavery in the ground where it belongs. That's your right and privilege, and I hope people do. But please do not lump me in the group of hate when that is not true. The reason I'm offended is because I've invested 13 years in being a volunteer to promote this city. I have defended this city. I have defended this board on multiple issues. The electric bill, when that comes up, I defend us. When the airport issue was so big, I defended that. Over and over, I have defended this city. One of the proudest moments of my life is when an unexpected person read a proclamation in front of this microphone that she did not believe in, I assume, but she did it in the name of unity. One Griffin used to mean something around here. And for this to devolve into you hate and you don't care and you believe in slavery because you want to honor your ancestors is disgraceful. This did not need to blow up into what it is. A proclamation does not mean that you have to celebrate the thing that it is. In April, I'm probably not going to set aside a day to honor the earth. I'm sorry, environmental people, I'm probably not. I do not assume by the color of someone's skin that they are a violent Antifa or BLM member. I don't assume that a redhead is a member of the Irish Mafia. These are not, that's not who we are. And so I hope that the people involved will consider their comments and consider a more equitable way to communicate what they believe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon.
Is there anybody else on my right that would like to come before the board? Please come forward, state your name and address for the record, please. Good evening.
My name is Larry Johnson, 122 Sherbrooke Way, Griffin, Georgia. I too did not come prepared to speak tonight, but what the heck? Looks like it's a good thing to do. Baby, smile. When I get through, we still gonna be friends, if we were friends to start with, because I'm not gonna change.
Neither am I, sir.
You've already changed, Rodney.
No.
Yeah, you have. You got better, son.
Oh, thank you.
I thought you'd like that.
I do like that. Thank you.
See, I remember, Rodney, serving with the board on you a long time ago. And you talking about saluting the flag or pledging allegiance to the flag. You remember when you would not pledge allegiance to the American flag?
I do recall.
You remember you and I went out into the, when you wouldn't salute the flag, I started wearing my Confederate belt buckle. You remember?
I don't think that's the way it happened, but.
Well, I think so.
There was a time.
But you and I went out there, and I was going to say we stood toe to toe and head to head, but ain't no way we stood head to head.
That's true. All right.
We just stand toe to toe.
Okay.
And we talked, and I told you where I came from,
Uh-huh.
and we had an understanding, and you understood me much better after that, and we served together pretty good after that.
We did.
I told you at that time that they were white folks, they were black folks when I was growing up.
Okay.
There was white trash, my family, and there was nigger town. I lived next to nigger town.
You live next to what town?
Nigger town, son, I'm telling you. Now, I've changed. I'm no longer white trash, and they're no longer called that. Now, wait a minute.
Hold on one second.
Mr. McCord, let him have his
Now,
minute,
let me
please.
finish.
Mr. McCord, please.
What did
Now, if
he
that's
just?
offensive, I apologize for being offensive, but I told you that.
Mr. McCord,
Now,
please.
let me just go ahead and
I'm
say
being
something. You
offensive.
said something about the flag.
I didn't say you were
It's my time to
offensive.
speak. You said something about the flag. I gave you, some of you, some stuff last year when I was here for you to go home and study and read. Rodney, I don't use that word anymore. But that, I
You
used
just
it to-
used it. You just used it then.
Now-
Now listen.
Okay.
Mr. McCord,
I'm
please
sorry.
let him get to the point so we can move
He
on.
can- he
Mr.
can get-
McCord,
He
please.
can get to his point, but I'm not going to sit here.
Mr.
Okay.
McCord.
And now maybe y'all are comfortable with that. Now I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and let this man use that type of language. And if nobody else is offended, then I am. Now, if y'all think if y'all want to clap and think that that's okay for this gentleman to stand in 2018 and get here at the Board of City Commission meeting, 2018, the Civil War is over, and he is using the N word, not once, not twice, 3 times, and he just continues to say it
Mr.
with
McCord.
not word about who it offends. And
Yes,
that's
sir.
and are y'all?
Mr. McCord, please.
Am
let
I the
Mr.
only person?
Mr. Johnson, please refrain from using the N
Thank
word,
you.
and please
That
get to your
should have been
point.
said from the
I will
beginning.
make my
Thank you,
point.
Mr. McCord.
I will make my point.
Please make your point and move on.
And I said, like I started, when I started, I hope we'll still be friends after we're through. All right. I studied a long time ago about the Confederacy, and I wrote a song. I've told you, it's out on the internet. But Rodney, you were talking about a flag. Well, maybe I shouldn't say Rodney, but somebody here was talking about a flag a while ago. A flag can't hate, and a flag can't love. A flag can't set the spirit free. A flag is just a symbol of what each heart chooses to see. Those are my words. I have other words too. My skin is white, my neck is red, and I was born in a southern bed. Nothing wrong with that. I hope that doesn't offend anybody. My heritage is Scotland. I came from my family. I can trace all the way back to Scotland. But I don't go around saying I'm Scottish American. I'm an American. Man, I am an American and proud of it. So enough of that. Rodney, when you and I were serving, or maybe before then, I don't remember exactly. But I have served with some great men. Raymond Head was my mentor when I was on this board. I remember going to Savannah to the GMA meeting with Raymond Head and Ciola. I said, Raymond, how come you're not dancing with that pretty woman over there? Ciola says, Raymond doesn't dance. I said, Raymond, can I dance for your wife? He said, yeah, and I did. And I had a good time. And Ciola had a good time. Raymond had a good time. We all did. Like I said, he was my mentor. When I served as the chairman of this board, there was a lot of dissension between the city and the county commissioners. There was another, the chairman of the county commissioners at that time was Gary Reed, a good friend of mine. We served together, and we tried to make between the two of us, we started the quarterly meetings between the boards of the commissioners. And we both of us worked to make our community better. Now, I served with other people. Ben Jackson, a friend of mine on the board, I served with him. And Rodney, I enjoyed serving with you. You have grown, I have grown. And I apologize if I offended you a while ago.
I
but
think
let me tell you something. No, wait a minute.
Hopefully you offended everybody.
Well, you offended the devil out of me a while ago. Now, I got just a little bit more. I'm about to wrap up, if I may.
Please
Y'all
don't.
presented a proclamation tonight. You don't, And Kelly Barrow mentioned that he had written 2 books. He's written more. This is his book. It's The Black Confederates, Kelly Barrow. I have read it. It is an excellent book about the blacks that you're talking about. Yes, they served. Did they serve honorably? Some of them did. So not all of them went into war. They went to serve their masters as they went, if you want to call it. That's right. Hey, at that time, Rodney, it was slavery. You know why they're slaves? Because the Africans were at war, and the ones that lost it.
This is not a history lesson. If we could please move on, Mr. Johnson.
Okay,
Thank you very
I'm not
much.
here to teach history. I'm just here to tell
I
you.
understand, but your 3 minutes.
Okay, well, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 20 minutes is
20
up.
minutes is.
I got another book, Charles Kelly Barrow. I encourage you to go to the library, read, study, and the war did not start between the states.
Okay.
It didn't start over slavery.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
You're quite welcome. Anytime y'all want to talk
Yes, sir.
again, I'll be happy to sit down
That
with
sounds
you.
good.
Stand up either way.
We'll make
Thank
a
you.
date.
Appreciate it.
Is there anybody else on my right? Yes, Miss. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Bonnie Moray, 1107 East College Street.
Yes, ma'am.
I moved here about a year ago because Griffin was a wonderful, loving community, and that's what I saw. Unfortunately, tonight, I didn't see that. I would ask, and I love all of you. You know, I come to these meetings, and I love all of you. I do, however, think that respect is lacking, and that was demonstrated tonight. So I propose that we have a list of words that can and cannot be used here during the commission meeting, because if I stood up here and used a 4-letter word that began with an F and ended with a K, everyone would be offended. So I think there should be a decorum from everyone, from listening to you speak and listening to you speak, and just everyone, just respect other people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bowles.
Is there anybody else on my right that'd like to come forward? Yes, please come forward and state your name, address for the record, please.
Hey, Sharon.
Good evening, ma'am.
I'm sorry, I'm kind of filthy. My name is Sharon Wright, live at 1118 Palm Valley Road, 1004 East College Street. But I was picking up grass clippings that I have to put into a bag now. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I'm not here to fight about Civil War, but I did have an aunt that was a spy for the South. She worked directly with Sam Davis, was married to his brother. But needless to say, the thing is that we need to remember, we don't want to go back on history. We don't want to go back and do those same things that happened back then. Slavery is a bad thing, okay? But my big thing is, I don't like having to have to pay for extended or higher rates on my grass clippings to be picked up. I don't like that. I have to put it in a bag and then have to get it paid a little higher. I don't like that.
Yes, ma'am.
Can we not do something about that? I mean, I came in here and fought for the fact of getting flowers on our graves out there at the cemetery, quit picking them up. And it came back to kind of haunt y'all a little bit.
Yes, ma'am.
And, of course, y'all still owe me for my flowers.
Ooh.
You'll see
Take care
Dr.
of
Keller
that.
and bring him a receipt. He'll take care of you.
I wouldn't expect anything from Dr. Keller.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, come on, Sharon. Come on.
Well, you know, when somebody sat there and tells you, you know, Sharon, you're nothing but a spoiled brat.
I'm sorry, I should not have brought the name. I'm sorry.
Okay, but anyway, let's go on.
Yes, ma'am.
All right?
We understand your
Hey,
situation with the yard clippings. They can't be sucked. They can't be picked up.
Let's don't use that word, okay?
Been called a Jew tonight. I've been called a racist. I've been called a.
Okay, I got
Okay,
one other
so let's-
word of advice, okay? I did have a little short meeting with Planning Development, kind of out of Kenny's office and with
Yes.
his secretary about, I think if you're going to have a company come in and, you know, search the whole citywide about houses that should be fixed up and everything else like that. If you do that 6 months ago, not only should you check to see if they've had building permits done, but maybe do a ride-by, because
Yes,
you
ma'am.
found out that I had already fixed that house and fixed it
Yes,
4
ma'am.
months ago.
And there's a method to their madness. It may
Yes,
not
I
make
understand.
common sense, but,
I understand.
and we appreciate you fixing the property.
But,
There's a procedure that we have to go through in terms of our,
I understand, but the only thing is, it's kind of infuriating getting a letter
ma'am.
when you've already fixed the house.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, but the other thing is that what I would like to ask, Mr. Holberg, the house that is next to my house that you sent me a letter for, I think it belongs to the city now. And if you want to talk about something looking really bad, I think y'all should send a letter to yourself.
thank you, ma'am.
Jessica.
If you'll get with staff on the address.
Thank you,
All right.
Sharon.
Is there anybody else on my right that'd like to come before the commission? Anybody, second chance, anybody on my left? I'm gonna just, come on, just checking. Okay. I don't know, Rodney, you know, never, I want to get folks. Okay. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Please stay for the rest of the meeting. It's not over yet, so we're going to be selling popcorn in just a minute. Thank you all for your comments. Every word is being recorded for the minutes. For those that are offended by the verbiage, please accept my apology. I told you, my scout Gabe, he's loving this tonight, aren't you, Gabe? You thought it was fun. Gabe is, just for a lifestyle, Gabe is like 3 months away from 18 years old, and so he is cramming. This is a citizenship and community merit badge, final requirement to get that. So hopefully in a couple of months,
Will he be getting an Eagle soon?
hopefully within 2 months, he'll finish his board review and he'll be earning his Eagle rank and moving on to life. So good job, Gabe.
Gabe,
We're
I
proud
hope
of you,
you've
man.
learned a lot tonight.
So,
It's
thank
not
you.
always this uncomfortable, Gabe, but sometimes we have to have adult conversations.
Sometimes, but thank you for being here, Gabe. And thank you all for being here tonight.
He'll be here every week, right, Gabe?
Go fishing.
Every other week.
Go fishing. All right, so now we're going into public hearings. Public hearings are conducted to allow public comment on specific advertised issues such as rezoning, ordinances, policy development, operating budgets, and other legislative actions to be considered by the City Commission. Item 7 is to receive comments on a proposed vertical and lateral expansion of the Shoal Creek Construction and Demolition Landfill. Central Services Director Phil Francis was addressed. This is a public hearing, so when we're done, you'll have the opportunity to ask questions or make comments. Welcome, Phil.
Hey, Phil.
About 18 months ago, we started to determine by our last remaining capacity reports that we were getting in that the landfill was starting to fill up pretty quick. I've got, and at that time we decided there was something we had to do. So you can't close, so you got to get bigger. So, but then you had to go about figuring out how to get bigger, and that's what we did. We have submitted to the state for an expansion, a vertical and a lateral expansion to the Shoal Creek C&D landfill. That'll add about 13 to 15 years capacity. If you'll permit me to go through the summary.
Yes, sir.
The annual tonnage intake for the landfill has increased significantly from an average of 38,000 tons a year in 2002 to a projected 65,000 tons a year for fiscal year 2018. Based on the increase in tonnage taken in, the usable life of the landfill has decreased by approximately 70%, resulting in the need for an expansion. Without the proposed expansion, the estimated time remaining is around 11 months. All required site suitability and hydrogeologic studies have been performed in accordance with the current EPD standards and are awaiting final approval to begin the design phase of the site. Proposed expansion will result in a 13 to 15-year extension of life to the site at the current rate of 65,000 tons per year intake. Basic design will result in a 30-foot vertical expansion on top of the current approved waste limit cap and a 1,000 by 875-foot lateral expansion to from the current toe of the approved cells. No residential or commercial entities will be affected. No encroachment issues to existing properties adjacent to the site. All protected wetlands and watersheds will not be affected. All runoff and erosion controls are in place, and all required buffers and delineated wetlands will remain. So it's basically putting, adding about a 30-foot vertical expansion to the actual waste limits that we have now, and then extending the toe, which is the base of the hill, so to speak, out about 1,000 by 875 feet, and bringing those up to the waste cap limit. So it's in our own property. There's no one around. There's no houses affected. There's nobody. I mean, we own the 610 acres out there now. It's basically like building a shed in your backyard, so to speak. So, but we have to go through all of these topographical issues, watershed issues, and all that, and they've all been met. This is the second public hearing, and we're ready to receive any comments. After that, it goes to the design phase and goes back to EPD for approval, and we start accepting waste.
Thank you, Phil. Is there any questions from the Board of Commissioners?
Phil, did you say how long this project could take? Just
About a
depending-
year.
About a year.
But we'll be able to accept waste during that time. So there's no, at the end of 11 months, we're closed. No. During that time, we'll be opening intermittent cells to where we can accept waste at our current level. None of our customers will be affected. No one will be in any way encumbered to where they'd have a problem, with bringing waste in.
Any other questions?
None from me.
This is the second of 2 required public hearings prior to beginning the project that will ensure future use of the site. At this time, is there anybody from the public who would like to come before the board to ask questions or make comments? Thank you very much. Thank you, Phil. Next agenda item is to receive comments regarding requests for a special use permit to allow for places of assembly to utilize a facility located at 708 South Hill Street as a multi-use activity and event center. Director of Planning and Development, Toussaint Kirk, will address. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. This is the Milner Walker House. It just recently got its designation on the National Historical Registry, and they're asking for a special use to use this location as an event center / museum / meeting space / So, places of assembly is the best use. Planning and Zoning Board did recommend approval of this request.
Okay. And as my understanding, you did approve?
Thank you,
Yes.
Toussaint.
Okay.
Thank
Any
you, Phil.
questions of the board? This is a public hearing. Is there any questions, comments from anybody in the audience? Anybody on my left? Anybody on my right? Thank you, sir.
Mr. Castile?
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Castile, go ahead, come forward, please. Yes, sir. That's okay. Good evening, sir. If you could please state your name and address. for the
David
record.
Castile, 705 Woodland Drive.
Thank you, sir.
All of you know I'm on the Planning and Zoning Board. For this one, I had to recuse myself from voting, but I didn't recuse myself from commenting as a citizen's right. And I just want to say that I've been a next-door neighbor to this property since 1941. I watched it go from a working dairy farm where I used to go up and buy butter for my mother to a place that was overgrown and almost deserted, and now back to a show place. And if everybody in Griffin had as much respect for the heritage and the history and just plain niceties of the town that we could have, it would be a lot of better place than it is now. I'm all for this, and I applaud what Ms. Walker Hoffman is doing as much as I can. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Castile. Is there anybody else in the audience who'd like to come before the board? Okay. Moving to the next agenda item, receive comment regarding a request to amend the Unified Development Code of the City of Griffin, Article 5, Section 504F, use provisions permitted, special, accessory, and non-conforming that addresses outdoor promotions and seasonal sales. Director of Planning and Development Services, Toussaint Kirk, and Chief of Staff, Jessica O'Connor, will address. Good evening.
Good evening again. Yes, so this outdoor sales and promotions kind of conversation started back in June of last year. We've revisited maybe 2, maybe 3 times. The key items in the text amendment deal with basically what you can actually have outdoors during normal business hours. Goods that are normally used in the outdoors are okay to display. If you want to display all of your goods, there's a 14-day special use permit you can use for those 14 days not to run consecutively, and that would be once a quarter. And permanent sales of goods are good as long as they're contained within your structure. So, for example, Jan's, they have a alcove that they can actually, that's still within the footprint of their building, so they can display all of their goods. So those are the top 3 items to summarize that text amendment.
Okay.
Have they been in touch with us, Jan's? Are they okay with that?
Have not necessarily talked to them directly. They have a special case considering they have that extra space there.
Okay.
This is a public hearing. At this time, is anybody on the left like to come before the board to ask questions or comments? Is there anybody on my right that'd like to come before the board? Board, have any other questions or comments? Good. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Item 10 is receive comments regarding a request to amend the Unified Development Code of the City of Griffin, Article 7, Section 704, Table 7.3, permitted uses for all zoning districts to modify classification options in the Planned Commercial Development, PCD, and Planned Industrial Development, PID. Chief of Staff Jessica O'Connor and Planning and Development Services Director Toussaint Kirk will address. Good evening.
Good evening. As Toussaint mentioned, this is another request to amend the Unified Development Code that we've been working on for several months now. We took this to Planning and Zoning Board earlier this month and asked for their approval. This is in regards to the permitted uses that we have in certain zoning districts. We're changing those categories to match the national standards for business occupation tax certificates and also to match our occupation tax certificates. We had some that were just not very clarified based on the different kinds of things that a garage or a motor vehicle repair shop can be called. So we're trying to get all of that classified and all in the same order that they're in for this code as well as our code of ordinances. We'll actually have to bring back another amendment for Article 2 of the UDC for the definitions because we'll need to clarify those as well once we're okay with moving forward with these classifications. That table also has some changes to it in that we're clarifying the outdoor storage of materials and other stuff. Other stuff for an attorney is never a good thing to have in a code, so we removed that and tried to define it more particularly. And I think those are the main things in here. We also we have been tasked with cleaning up the city, and one of the requirements of these businesses that are zoned or categorized in this manner will only be allowed a certain number of storage per bay, which we, in talking with you at the workshop, it was 4 per bay. So that is what we're also suggesting in this table 7.3 for permitted uses.
Thank you. Is there any questions or comments from the Board of Commissioners? This is a public hearing. At this time, is anybody on my left like to come before the board? Mr. Castile, please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
David Castile, 705 Woodland Drive. As a member and the vice chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission, I requested that this be tabled until it could be straightened out. I was told it couldn't be tabled because the commissioners were, quote, in a hurry to get it done.
Yes, sir.
One of the members voted against it, and in retrospect, if I had had it to do over, I would have voted against it because I think it's currently written. It is a classic example of government meddling from people who know absolutely nothing about the business that they're meddling with and interfering with people's livings. And as I told you back in 2016 with the previous commission, which passed the buck on down to this one, that, and I don't blame you, it's a thorny issue from both sides. But as I told you then, if you're not careful, you're going to throw the baby out with the bathwater on this one.
Thank you.
Please remember, this is people's livings.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. David. Chairman, if I may, I do need to clarify one thing. this is actually not going to affect industrial zoned properties, or if you are classified as a junkyard or also known as a motor vehicle repossession service is what it will now be known as. So there are a couple exemptions to this because of the kinds of classifications that they are and the kind of zoning district that they would be in if you are one of those two things.
Thank you. Again, this is a public hearing. Is there anybody else that'd like to come before the board for comments or questions? Hold 1 second, Mr. Johnson. Yes, sir. Good evening. Name and address for the record, please, sir.
Arnie Cobb, 100 Windy Oaks Lane, Locust Grove, Georgia. I actually own a business here in Griffin. It's Cobb's Auto Repair. I have several customers sitting in here. I understand, and we're trying to clean up Griffin, and the automotive shops have really stepped forward and started moving a lot of stuff around. What we'd like to know is, and I'm not sure that I'm speaking in the right time, because I know Article 19 is coming up, and I didn't know if there was a time to speak on it.
This is the public hearing time,
Okay.
so you're perfect, sir.
All right, so I would like to know a little bit more about what the classifications are, how many cars we can have. Every one of the automotive shops in Griffin are overloaded with cars right now. We are just overloaded. And if you don't know, there's a lack of technicians in Griffin. We just lost one shop in Griffin. It's been here for 47 years. Coach Foreign Cars gone. They had no techs. There's none out there. So we have these cars that are coming in. It might be a week before I can get to your car. When I started on Robert Taylor's Volkswagen that sat outside my shop, you would have called it an inoperable junk.
Yes, sir.
He's driving it every day now, you know. I worked on Mr. McCord's car. So, you know, we need a little bit more.
Everybody don't know you work on Rolls Royce. So.
Yeah, okay. Well, I hear you, you know. But we need a little more definition so the shops know what we're doing. You know, we're trying to move these cars as fast as we can. You know, we have limited space to keep a lot of them. So we're trying to keep everything picked up. And in fact, I had two that customers wouldn't come get, and I'd call the record guy and said, they ain't coming after them, come get them, you know. So we have legal limits that we can do on some of them, and they know that. Yes, but, you know, we can't have this shoved down us.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Cobb.
Good evening, sir. Name and address for the record, please, sir.
Scott Wimpy and 164 South Walker's Mill Road. Good evening to all of
Good
y'all.
evening.
What Arnie is saying is correct. I mean, in our situation, a lot of times we get a lot of vehicles that come in that people, in my particular business, I mean, I work on the everyday driver cars like everybody does, but we also do automotive restoration too. So in those issues, sometimes, you know, I have a parts car area that I have to, you know, rely on for parts, and I do buy those vehicles, and sometimes it takes a lot of time to get, you know, the parts off, and then we dispose of them and, you know, send them to the salvage yard. That being said, you know, we need to, you know, have it where we can, y'all need to work with us, because it's not that we want to choose to stack these things up and make it look deplorable, but it's our business. We put tax money into the business, and I mean into our communities, and we just need, you know, we need a little bit of understanding on y'all's end too. It's not that we want to do anything wrong and not try to do what we need to do. We just need, you know, some leniency here to figure out what we need to do. You know, it's like when y'all first started this, it was an issue of, you know, let's all work together and try to figure out what we can do. And now we're going to try to table it and put it to a law to, you know, we need some help. So y'all work with us, and, you know, we'll try to make it work for y'all.
It definitely matters to me just knowing that I did not know that we lost a business, and I definitely didn't know we were short of technicians. So, I mean, it's just a conversation. I know Jessica and Tucson, I know you've really worked hard. Is this the right time and place? Junk vehicles, though, that's an inoperable means one that really can't be repaired, right, Jessica? Is that what that means? So if it's one that's in repair that you just can't get to, that doesn't mean the same thing, right? I'm sorry, that's the wrong place.
So you've got 4 vehicles per garage door. So if you could go into the specifics of what you can
Yes,
have
I
and what
will.
you can't.
There's two different things that we're dealing with here. Right now, in the city of Griffin, you cannot have a junked or inoperable motor vehicle. That is currently how our code reads. There are some exemptions to that broad law that says if you are a certain kind of shop and it is for the course of your business and operating that business, then you can have junked vehicles. What we're proposing is that we take away those exemptions, because what seems to be happening, and when we had these conversations with the car chat forum that we did last year, they're not actually being used in the operation of the business. They're there for storage because they don't have a technician to work on them, or they don't have the money from the person that needs it fixed at that time. So junked vehicles is not something that has to have a public hearing because it is a code of ordinances revision, but it does also relate to this change in the UDC. So that provision in 90-141 through 144 is under number 19, which I think somebody already mentioned. So that is something that we're discussing as well. This particular change only talks about regular vehicles. So this is any vehicle cannot be outside after business hours except for 4 per bay. What seems to be happening when you drive around is that a lot of places, after they're closed or on the weekends and not open, there are just cars lined up everywhere, and they're not there for operational purposes because they're not operating right then. So we were asking to limit those unless you are zoned industrial or you're classified as a junkyard. You can put them inside, you can do whatever you need to do at that point, but after business hours, the recommendation from staff is to limit that to 4 cars per service bay. So if you have 3 service bays, you can have 12 cars. None of them can be junked, because we're also asking that we remove that provision from the Code of Ordinances. So that exemption would go away unless you still meet those other classifications, which, let me find those real quick. Sorry, it's a lot to keep up with. So those classifications would still be that you are allowed to have a junked or inoperable motor vehicle if you are a licensed wrecker or towing service, impound yard, or junkyard. Those are going to be the ones that can have the junked vehicles. They will still have to meet the provisions, though, in the UDC, which is already currently there, which says if you're operating as a junkyard, you have to have a 6-foot fence and it cannot be see-through, mainly. So you cannot be able to see what's in that fence from adjoining right-of-ways or adjoining properties. That's already in our code as well. So we're just changing what can have that exemption for junked vehicles with that Code of Ordinances change in Chapter 90. This public hearing addresses how many vehicles can be stored at the property, any kind of vehicle. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
We're still in citizens' comment. I think, Mr. Johnson, you need to come. If you could please give your name and address for the record, please, Mr. Johnson.
Larry Johnson, 1464 Beatty. Excuse me, that was my old address. I no longer live there. Is this on now?
Now back off from there.
Back off?
That's good.
Can you hear me? Would you rather not?
You're good.
Okay.
We can't answer that question.
I got to remember where I live now. Larry Johnson, 122 Sherbrooke Way, Griffin.
Yes, sir.
And I said I had everything to say about this last time, but I've got your ordinance and I have read it, and y'all have done some great changes in it. But I do have just a few questions, and that is that this ordinance creates a hardship. Can a business get a variance? And the ordinance says a business shall have 4 motor vehicles, whether operable or inoperable, per exterior service bay located outside the principal business structure after the business is closed. My question is, what is an exterior service bay? Because I'm not one of these guys back here that knows that kind of stuff. And is there a limit to the number of exterior service bays? All right. Now, the ordinance is clear on what a junk or inoperable motor vehicle means, but this I'd like to suggest to you, if you would, that you add mechanically impaired to your definition of a junked or inoperable motor vehicle. Some vehicles are not wrecked or missing parts or missing a key component. Some are junk because they have a bad engine or a transmission and are mechanically impaired. So it costs more to fix them than it is than they were, so they junk them. If you would, just mechanically impaired, I think would help define that a little bit better. Thank you.
Ms. O'Connor, what's your thought on mechanically impaired verbiage?
I think that makes it more restrictive because a junked vehicle is one that is
wrecked,
completely trashed. If it's mechanically inoperable, like when my brakes went out, then you're telling me that car can't sit up there. So I think that's more restrictive. I don't think that our auto repair shops are going to like that.
Okay. All right. And then the bay door, a bay door is a door where you pull a vehicle in. So
Right.
that's
It's
a
on the
definite
exterior of the
building.
And there
So
is
like
no
10 foot
limit.
by whatever height. The garage door counts as a bay, and so that number of doors would facilitate.
The reason I was saying about the being junk, being a whole car, I know that you can buy whole cars that are junk.
Yes, sir.
You know, and but anyway, thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're still in the public hearing on this matter. Is there anybody else in the audience like to speak? Welcome back. Name and address for the record, please.
All right, very good. Arnie Cobb, 100 Windy Oaks Lane. So if I'm right, you're saying if I have 2 bays, I can have 8 cars outside of my building at night after hours. So if your car's there, got towed in with the bad brakes, you got to go on and take it home and then bring it back when I can get to it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that we need to have some of this put in the paper because it's not only going to affect the shops, it's going to affect you, Mr. Holberg. It's going to affect all the customers in town with cars. So, I mean, if you can store everything on your property neatly at night and it's all there and it's, you know, here's the second thing we've got to fool with. You know, being a shop owner, I had to call Mr. Field the other day, who's actually a customer. I pay for a dumpster. I came in the other day and it's this high over my dumpster. So I had to spend 2.5 hours cleaning up the street beside my shop because someone got evicted up the street, and guess what? That's where everything went, in my dumpster. So I didn't get to work on 2 cars because I had to clean that up. So we're not only trying to clean that up, we're also having to deal with the little punks running up and down the streets going in all the cars. So if you think it's bad with what we're doing now, go sit in the juvenile court and listen to what's happening with Derek at A1 and us and see them sitting in there smiling and all because there's nothing going to happen to them. So not only have we got a hardship on us about having to call our customers and say they've got to go home because we can't get to them, but it's everything else we have to do too.
Thank you, Mr. Cobb.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the audience like to come before the board? Going once, twice? Oh,
Someone on the way.
gotcha. Thank you. Good evening. Name and address for the record, please, sir.
1246 West Taylor Street, Derek Parrott, A1 Automotive.
Welcome, sir.
I have around 50 to 60 cars on my parking lot at any given time. And we always work on them. We work on them every single day. So you're going to tell me that I have to pull all those in?
How many bays do you have, Derek?
Inside the building?
No, this is the bay doors.
Right, that's where it gets tricky. Because I have 15 bays on the inside the building, but I only have 5 bay doors. So how's that fair?
Yeah.
How you going to say, look, you can only have, since you only have 5 bay doors and you have 60 parking places outside, you can't use your 60 parking places because you're paying taxes on it and everything else. We want you to only have that for looks.
And all of these cars, do they fit into that criteria, though?
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you've ever rode by. We're pretty busy.
Your address, sir? The shop?
1246 A1 Automotive. It's 2 doors up from Sonic.
Okay, gotcha.
It's the old Cadillac dealership.
So this would put a hardship on you and your customers, and
Absolutely.
Did we, we mentioned, and this up to you, Ms.
Because
O'Connor.
I work on car lot cars.
Yes, sir.
I work on other businesses' cars, like mechanic shops' cars, and my customers' cars. So, I mean, that's a lot.
Did we take account, not just bay doors, but, and I'm talking to Ms. O'Connor, sir,
We-
take account in terms of number
Yes, sir,
of
we looked-
bays versus bay doors?
We looked at other things as well. We looked at a lot of different ordinances, some from College Park, some from Union City, I think Fairburn, LaGrange. They did it based, some of them did it based on number of cars per bay. Some of them did it based on square footage of the lot. Some of them did it based on square footage of the building. Some of them said, we don't care how big your place is or how many bays you have 14 days to have that car and that's it. So we looked at all kinds of different things and thought that this was going to be the easiest way to regulate it. We drove around the city constantly. If you have 5 bays, you get 20 cars. So at that point, I mean, we need the direction from the board to tell us what do you want it to be. When we had our car chat with our automotive repair shops, they were great in telling us some of their issues, and we appreciated that very much, and that's why we're trying to make sure that we work through this so that we don't lose these businesses and we're able to keep them. That's why we've asked that industrial be exempted. That's why we asked that junkyards and those kind of businesses that are classified as that also be exempted. But when we're tasked with cleaning up the city, I don't know that when we're coming into our main corridors on Taylor Street or on Merriweather or on Poplar, and we're asking businesses to come here, that they, want to drive down and have to question whether or not that business is a junkyard. If you're having to question that, then that's probably not the kind of business that you want to see here on those main corridors. There's certainly a place for that. There's certainly a classification for that and a zoning district for that. But if we're having to say, is that a junkyard or is that an auto repair shop, then we probably crossed that line, and we're just having to figure out what that line is. Our recommendation is 4 per bay, but of course, that's at the pleasure of the board, and we're asking what that is. We want them to help us with that as well.
Okay, you said you had 5 bay doors, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's 20 cars. So, but you said something about having bays inside the building.
Right. I have about 12 workstations in the building at any given time.
Okay, so is that?
I mean, I may have, realistically, I have maybe 6 cars that are on my lot that are broke down that I know for a fact we're not going to fix because they're just junk. Customers ain't going to come get them. I've been working with the, people to come pick them up. They don't want to come pick them up. You can't do anything except file abandonment. You can look me up in the courthouse. I've filed abandonment on, I know, at least 3 dozen cars, and I'm battling one right now back and forth because, one little mistake on a ad in the newspaper, you got to redo it. That's 60 days of paperwork and waiting time just to make sure that you made a mistake. To just get the paperwork to do something with the car. Legally, we can't do anything with it unless we call the only person I know in this city that you can call that can come pick that car up without having any paperwork is Watson's. That's the only one. So you're kind of limited what you can do when a customer brings a car in that, they already know they're not going to fix it, but you don't know that. So you spend your time, you pull it in, you check it out, you call them up. Oh, I'll let you know. And then you repeatedly call them, and they, never answer your phone, change your number, whatever.
Right.
And if you already got money tied up in it, what you gonna do? Just take a loss, call them up, say, hey, come get this car. It's in my way. It's, junk car. Or are you gonna try to do the paperwork and do, if it's worth, my time and everything, I'll do the paperwork because it's like $450 on top of what I've already got in the car. And then the waiting game. And then you got to get it and put it in your name.
Right. We're just trying to clean the city up.
So
some information like you were just presenting, that's useful.
Right. And I mean, I'm in the middle of the city. I'm right there beside Food Depot. I'm right on Taylor Street. I just spent $4,500 on getting my building painted, and it's nice and neat, and it's, red, white, and blue. I'm spending money on redoing my office and everything. I'm trying to clean up everything around my office.
It
right. I just cut trees back and everything.
Here's the old Sigmund Buick building.
Well, the Cadillac dealership, the one on the right.
Yeah.
When you're coming down Taylor Street, coming towards Griffin.
And
the old
maybe
Griffin glass.
You said some cities do a square footage type thing, maybe small, medium, on a large scale. I don't know. But maybe.
I think one of the reason that we suggested this recommendation was we knew that it took some time to do the abandonment. in the law. So we didn't think that that 14 days was fair. So we pretty much threw that one out right away. What we considered, if they have exterior service bays and then they have more interior service bays, then there shouldn't be a problem being able to pull those cars inside those bays at night if they have that many. So we're not saying that you can't have that many. We're saying you can only have that many, 4 per however many bays outside. So if you have such a big shop that you can pull those in, then you can have those other 40 cars, because I think he said he had 60. So those 40 can go inside because he said he had first 12 workstations. So I'm not sure exactly how many, but 12 workstations, and you can put a couple of cars in there, and you can still have 20 outside as well. So, I don't know. I don't know the best way to, what we thought was the best way to handle it is through exterior service bays, because that seems to tell you about how big the inside is as well. But obviously, we didn't go into each auto repair shop and ask them how many interior service bays they have, because we were more concerned about the exterior of the business.
Well, when it comes to enforcement too,
and that, I mean,
we're not going to know how many they have inside. We're not going to get out and measure their building every time there's more cars out. So
Yeah,
from an
and-
enforcement standpoint, you see the number of bay doors, you see the number of cars, and you can enforce the order.
that's the other problem.
Okay. Anything else, sir?
Yes. Have any of y'all ever had y'all's car worked on?
Yes,
Every month.
You want to show of hands?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, show of hands.
Every month.
All right.
all the time.
Now, would you rather take your car to the dealer?
No.
Why not?
Mine's
Because you're
past
going
the-
to overcharge, and they're going to keep it for 3 or 4 weeks. Now, when we're working on cars, we get a car in, we're doing a transmission. We can't just push that. What are we going to do? Put a car on top of it to put it on the lift? I mean, you can't pull cars on top of other cars. If you already got 12 cars in the bays, where are you going to put the other cars at? The building has the cars that are tore apart, took apart, or whatever like that. The other cars may be sitting out there waiting on parts. Sometimes you call the dealership up, oh, well, that's on back order. We get that from Chrysler every day. And, if the part comes in tomorrow, hey, we can finish that car up tomorrow. But it may be next month before we get the part. When it's on national back order, it's on back order. Once you tear the car apart, what are you going to tell the customer? Oh, well, you need to come get your car, and here's all your parts. When we get the part, come, bring it back. You got a tow bill to bring it to us, you got a tow bill to take it home, then you got a tow bill to bring it back. Ain't nobody going to want to use this. Would you want to take your car to the shop that's going to tell you that? You got to act, you got to kind of present yourself as a customer too.
All right. So you said 5 outside bay doors.
I have 5 bay doors.
And that would be 4 cars per one, and you don't have room inside on the other 15
No.
that you can.
I mean,
pull
once you
those
put
in.
cars in the shop, they're in the shop. Now I have
I got it.
2,
But how many cars do you have that are
6, 7,
inoperable?
8, 9. I got 9 lifts.
How many cars do you have that are inoperable that are there for an excess of 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 8 weeks,
lot.
12 months? And our issue
Oh,
is
no, no, 12 months.
I mean,
Now, I have them
but the
there
issue
for,
is if
it
cars are
may
sitting
be anywhere
there-
between 6 weeks to, let's say, 3 months, waiting on, parts or availability for parts. You may call up and be like, I need a used engine. We don't have any. Or the price is so ridiculous that the customer says, well, can we wait, a few weeks and see if that can come down? Because price changes every day.
Right.
On used parts. The more the parts, more they have, the less the money is going to be.
But our issue is that they're becoming a bullpen
And see-
of just cars that are just sitting there
Right.
that become an eyesore in the community. And so
Right.
what we need is a solution.
Well, see, then I have customers that, we finish their car.
Right.
We try to enforce, after the repair's done, you have 3 days before you can, you need to come get it within 3 days. If not, we're going to start charging you storage fees. Sometimes that works, sometimes that don't. Customers don't care. If they don't have the money to come pick it up, they're not going to come pick it up until they get the money. So sometimes, once you park a car out there, it may be out there 2-3 weeks waiting on the customer just to come simply pick it up and pay for it. Now, anything over a certain amount, we do get a deposit, so we're not out the money even if we're waiting on them to come pick it up. Like you'll come to my lot, anything that's on the front facing the street, those are all done cars. Anything that's over the parking area, those are all cars getting, worked on. Anything in front of the building, those are cars that are being dropped off that day. I mean, we have cars anywhere between 10 to 15 cars coming in and 15 to 20 cars going out every single day.
Yes, sir.
So it's like a big circle of, cars.
Understand.
And if you don't actually sit there and watch them, you'll swear up and down those are the same cars that we've had for 6 months.
Yes, sir.
But you've got to actually watch them.
Yes.
But then another thing, we work on cars that don't have tagging insurance because they belong to car lots.
Yeah.
So, being, the thing I think in the ordinance is they got to be tagged and insured, that's going to really bite. That's telling me to go get my dealer's license so I can work on them. So that's more money I have to spend and more license I have to get them, just to do it.
You have definitely brought some discussion back to me.
the-
Learning, like Mr. Castile says. I don't know about.
How would y'all feel like if, all the mechanics went out and applied for dealer license just to have the cars on their lot? Then what you gonna do? Go start attacking all the dealers?
Somehow we have to figure out how to.
Right. Be fair.
No, sir. How to clean up the junk.
Right.
And
I
and the folks
understand that.
that
If you come
blatantly
by and you're like, oh man,
abuse
that car's
the
been there
system.
forever. You got to
Yes,
get
sir.
rid of it.
Yes, sir.
Get rid of it.
I mean,
I had a
and
customer
that-
bring, a prime example. 2 weeks ago, a lady brought a 1995 BMW that ain't ran in 7 years. When I seen it come in on the record, I said, whoa, don't even drop that here, dude. What are you doing? Oh, man, the customer's bringing it. I was like, no, they ain't neither. I'm not working on that car. She ain't going to pay for that car. Call her up. I'm like, well, ma'am, it's $1,500. Car ain't worth $5, but, I'm $1,500. Need a clutch, $1,500. I don't have that kind of money. I said, well, ma'am, why did you have it towed up here? Well, because the city of Griffin come and told me I had to get it moved. Oh, what?
Right.
So you're going to drop it off on me? No.
And so that's where you got to
So
be
you're gonna come
responsible
beat
owner
this
and
car back
say,
up.
move it, go someplace
Right.
else, take it to a junkyard.
Yeah.
There's Johnson's down the road
Yeah.
or whoever, and move on.
Man,
So-
I had to threaten to get it impounded at Watson's because once it goes there, you ain't getting it back.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Once he comes picks it up, it's his car.
Thank you.
You can go fight with him.
Understand.
And then, she actually come picked it up the same day. But we do got that going on,
Yes,
too.
sir. Thank you for your comment, sir.
Thank you.
Thank
Is there
you.
anybody else in the audience like to make a comment, a word of wisdom? Are there any other questions the board would like to discuss?
Can I make just one more comment without getting up?
Yes, sir, please. Mr. David Castile, Woodland Drive.
The Ford dealership,
Yes, sir.
I'm operating from memory. If I recall correctly, has 3 doors to the exterior of the
Yes, sir.
service bar. Are you gonna tell them that just because they got 3 doors, but they got about 20 bays inside, that they can only have 12 cars outside that are in them?
What's the zoning
That doesn't
issue
make
with,
liquor sense. Any more sense than it does to tell somebody they gotta take it home, and then when it gets it home, the city's gonna say, you can't have it at home.
yes, sir.
That, a dealership is not classified under these same classifications, so that's different.
Okay.
Even though they have a repair shop, it's all in one.
Because
So-
it's zoned in a different
Got
area
it. I got
than,
it.
than a plain
Commercial
commercial
district.
district.
Well, I could find some.
I understand. Yes, sir.
Say the same thing about it.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from the audience? Board, any other questions? No. Okay. Moving to the consent agenda, we have items 11 through 15. Do we want to take these individually or as a group?
Group.
All right, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion that they be approved.
Mr. Tinsley with a motion to approve, second by Ms. Murray. Any questions or comments? All in favor, signal by raising their hand. Hand sign. 6-0. Moving to the regular scheduled agenda. Item 16 is consider approval of a request for a special use permit to allow the Places Assembly to utilize the facility located at 708 South Hill Street as a multi-use activity and event center.
I make a motion.
Ms. Murray with a motion to approve. Do we have a second? Mr. Brock with a second. Any discussion or questions? All in favor, signal by raising their hand. 6-0. Item 17, consider a request to amend the Unified Development Code of the City of Griffin, Article 5, Section 504F. Use provisions permitted special accessory and non-conforming that addresses outdoor promotions and seasonal sales.
I make a motion.
We have a motion, Ms. Murray, to approve.
Second.
Second by Ms. Ward. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
All in favor, please signal by raising your hand. 6-0. Item 18 is consider amendment to the Unified Development Code of the City of Griffin, Article 7, Section 704, Table 7.3, permitted uses for all zoning districts to modified occupational tax classifications in planned commercial development and planned industrial development.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion from Ms. Ward to approve. Do we have a second? Is that Mr. Tinsley?
Yes.
Mr. Tinsley with a second. Any questions or comments? All in favor, signal by raising their hand. All against? Is that a yes, Mr.? Okay, 6-0. Item 19, consider on first reading a request to amend the Code of Ordinances with the City of Griffin, Article 90, Article 7, Junked and Inoperable Motor Vehicles, Section 90-141 through 90-144, to update definitions and establish storage parameters for automotive-type facilities. Pleasure of the board.
Motion to approve.
Ms. Ward with a motion to approve. Do we have a second? I'll make a second. Any questions or discussions?
Are we ready to move forward with this at this time?
It's the first reading. We have 2 readings, right?
Well, I mean, I don't know what else to give you from staff's perspective. I mean, we've been working on this since last summer.
Yes.
And we keep bringing back options, and it gets more complicated. So I really don't know from our perspective how to make it fit both ways. We can't, I don't know what the compromise that staff can bring back.
But we can't go back and amend this.
Oh, sure, yeah, you can make any amendments at any time.
Any other questions? Any
And
more
you do
comments?
have a second reading, but
Okay.
I just don't know what else to do.
And generally, the second reading comes up in the consent agenda, I believe. So
Normally it
this next
does.
time, let's move it to the regular agenda next time, please. If that's fair.
Well, I mean, if somebody has recommended changes, we're certainly open to
Understand.
that before we do the second reading. Normally, we don't make wholesale changes on the second reading, but
No, I understand. I'm good with that, Ken.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All in favor of the motion, the second, please raise your hand. All against, like sign. 6-0. Item 20, consider travel request for Commissioner Holly Murray for the Springs 2008 two-day training on April 12, 13, 2018 at Callaway Gardens.
Motion to approve.
Ms. Ward with a motion to send Ms. Murray away. Do we have a second?
Second. Coming back?
She's coming back. Mr. McCord with a second. All in favor, signal by raising your hand. 6-0. Wonderful. All right, city manager report.
offices will be closed Friday for Good Friday. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
Schools are not closed. Mr. McCord.
Once again, I want to, hopefully the young ladies from Spalding High School will be here. Encourage everyone to be back on our first Tuesday meeting of April as we celebrate the Spalding High School Jaguars girls basketball team winning the state championship. And I want to thank everybody for participating in our spirited debate tonight. Sometimes this job gets uncomfortable, and if I offended anyone by making it uncomfortable, is part of my job. Whenever something comes up that I think offends other people, to make other people feel good, I am going to speak up against it. So if you find this place to be offensive because we talk about things that make you uncomfortable, then this may not be the place to come, because if it's ever someone stands up and says N-word town in my presence, I am going to speak up. Believe that on any given day, any place, when someone acts in that manner that I consider to be offensive and that word to be very offensive, I am going to say something. So if you come down here and you hear that, or if you think somebody's going to make comments like that, expect me to speak up for people that don't like that word.
Thank you, Mr. McCord. Ms. Murray.
Well, this has probably been the most extensive meeting. And this is, how many, 3 months? This is our 3rd month.
The year's not over yet.
It's still a great pleasure to serve you all, and I count down the days to the next meetings. I really do. I enjoy it that much. I just enjoy being a part of this community and serving. And like Rodney said, this is not an easy job, and there are decisions that must be made, and I'm proud of you, Mayor Holberg, Commissioner Holberg, Chairman, for the great job that you did tonight to hold us all together and the public. Thank you all for coming. You all did your research. I appreciate how respectful most everyone was. And my daughter got to come to her first commission meeting tonight. She's 10. Skater, that's right. That's right. So, but the decisions were made, and lots of different decisions. And we might not all agree with everything, but I truly believe that in this fine country, in this fine city, in this fine state, we all need to have that voice, and we all need to have that protective freedom of speech. And just thank you all for coming tonight, and please come back. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brock.
Make a motion to adjourn.
No, do you have any comments, Mr. Brock?
No comment, sir.
Mr. Tinsley?
No comments, and I'll second his motion.
Ms. Ward?
No comment.
The gentleman, Mr. James Johnson, passed away. Mr. Johnson was a retired teacher from Griffin Spalding County School System. French teacher, journalism, yearbook, humanitarian English teacher. He was served as minister of music for several churches in the area. Mr. Johnson was involved with many local organizations. He received, and his wife received, the 2009 Bain Proctor Award for volunteerism. So Mr. Johnson was a member of my church, very loyal servant, joined Kiwanis Club, and prayers to he and his family. To answer your question, Ms. Taylor, I am a Christian. I'm in First Baptist Church, and just wanted to close with a scripture, with it being Easter. It says, "Then Jesus said to them, all of you will be made to stumble because of me this night, for it is written." Mark 14:27. I take this job very seriously. I know the decisions that each of us have in each of our positions are not taken lightly. I despise a bully. I despise injustices. I don't agree with anything in terms of what happened with the slavery. It was a different time. It was a piece of our history. I've signed my name on a dotted line for the United States Army to be a commissioned officer. Unfortunately, I got medically discharged. I was willing to die for this country, die for every one of these folks in here, just like our law enforcement personnel. And our community is one Griffin, one family. And whether you're Christian, Muslim, Jewish, black, white, northerner, southerner, we have to respect each other's differences. I may not agree with what everyone posts on Facebook, but I also agree with a lot of stuff that people that might not agree with what they post. So we've got to figure out how to overcome these differences at times and cherish the positives. And I just want to wish each of you this Easter season a happy Easter, and hug your children, hug your families, call your mom, your dad.